up shooting shots, they just want me to fade. But my game made when I'm getting buckets today. Crossover, pull up, bet you fall for the hezzy. Game 7 prime time is butterflies on your belly, now can you do it? Folding under the pressure, boy, can you do it? If you going, show 'em who better. Don't let the game slip and don't get caught in the lights. Crown me, yeah, Jordan taking off on the
Baby,
flight.
give me all the rings right now, we the champions. We the champions. I do my thing right now and it can be done. They said it can't be done. Give me all the rings right now, we the champions. We the champions. I do my thing right now and it can't be done. They said it can't be done.
What's up, everybody? This is Zach Chevaloli here with Philly Sports Network and the Baseline Scoop. Coming to you live, well, actually, I guess we're live here in front of the public, but you'll be hearing a little later on here at Franklin's Pub down in East Falls, right after the Philadelphia 76ers suffered an absolute shellacking at the hands of Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets. I'm here with my man A.B. Aaron Bell, Justin Crosby, Sean Bernard, all PSN people, you know, so we are disheartened. We are, trudging along as best we can, but we're looking to the future, trying to find the brightness in the situation. Every darkest day has its dawn, so they tell me, so I guess really, let's look at the game first of all. Where do we think, Sean, let's start with you. Where do we think this went wrong tonight?
I mean, it started right off the bat. When the Sixers falling behind early, we saw Harden not getting his whistles, not getting anything inside the work, and it kind of, his game fell back from there. Not a good James Harden game. His worst as a Sixer so far, ending with 11 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds. Compared to what we've seen in the past 5 games, I mean, that's not the bar that we expect him to reach on a nightly basis. Now, granted, 5 out of every 6 games, he's great. That's pretty good, and we will live with that. It sucks that it happened today. This really was right off the rip. The energy was there at the start, and just after that first quarter when they fell down, things just kind of shrunk out of the building. So 40-23 after the first, and Sixers were never to find their way back in it.
Yeah, it's just, you can look at the effort going around the horn, basically.
Yep.
I'm looking at these stats right now, and you look at Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid had 19 free throws at the half. And he didn't play much of the fourth, if any, but he played the third.
Yeah.
And he didn't get a single free throw there. I don't know, and I'd have to rewatch the film, but it's probably some combination of not being overly engaged because of how far behind they were. And the whistle seemed a little soft tonight. I mean, did you see any of that tonight?
Yeah, that's exactly what I seen essentially. I got a lot of mixed emotions when it comes to this a bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm really sitting back and just thinking. I do believe, obviously, the whistles didn't really go in the favor of the Sixers. Like you said, Joel Embiid had his 19 free throws. But other than that, we really didn't see a lot going on around anywhere else. I guess I struggle with, me personally, what was the game plan going into this? What were we trying to prove? Because I felt like it was like they were trying to prove a point type of game. Whereas like we needed to just continue with how he's been playing over the last 6 games. There was a lot of just isolation, just between pick and roll, between the simple fact that Tyrese Maxey scored 4 points tonight. That was, and since James Harden got here, he's averaging 20 points a game. So we didn't play like how the Sixers usually play. So that leaves me a bit encouraged as well, because we didn't play like we were supposed to play, essentially like that. So that's why I say I have a lot of mixed emotions, but I do worry a bit as far as are we ready to really take that jump and really go win a championship.
Yeah, I'd say the only player, at least when you look at the starters, who played at or above his average, not even Joel Embiid, who looked a little tired with the shot, though he was definitely working hard the whole game, you can see that. Tobias Harris, in spite of a terrible defensive effort, he looked halfway decent on offense. Especially, I treated it as a joke. Whether or not they meant it as a joke, I don't know. But during the show earlier tonight, somebody came up to me and they were talking about, is this the game where Tobias Harris finds his role? And I was like, what role? But, you look and you see he was 4 or 5 from 3 tonight, 16 points, 5 of 10, and it's like, all right, maybe he was 1 of 5 inside the arc, but still, I'll take 5 of 10, 4 or 5 from 3, 16 points. That's what he should be doing. Justin, when you look at Harris going forward, is there anything more that he can be doing? What did he do tonight that was different, and how does he fit going forward?
I think that Tobias, one, he still has to figure out his role and get more comfortable with the catch and shoot. Tonight, he was 4 for 5 from 3. One plus is he took 5 threes.
Yeah.
The other plus, he made 4 of them. He has to get comfortable. I think Tobias, in order for him to really be effective with this new offense with Harden, he has to take at least 7 threes a game. And they're open. He pump fakes and goes to the rim a lot. But you can't beat up on them tonight on offense as much. Also think because the Sixers were down so big, it wasn't a pressure to hit the shots. Like in a close game or, a back and forth game, it's a little bit more pressure. They're down, so it's just like I'm shooting them and, they're going in. So hopefully he could take this mentality going forward and kind of do that. But, I mean, if Tobias is shooting 5 to 7 threes a game, making 3 or 4 of them, that's what we need from him. And then he can get his occasional drive and, pump fake and drive, but better catch and shoot effort tonight, making them at least. So hopefully he continues that. And that's going to be his role going forward on his team unless one of the stars are out. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. I think that's the perfect way to sum it up. Sean, what did you think on that?
Yeah, and kind of like you said, the catch and shoot is the biggest deal to me because a Tobias Harris that makes quick decisions is a good Tobias Harris and one that helps the team. And I saw a stat earlier today that his field goal percentage dips over 10% when he takes more than 2 seconds with the ball. And it's just the classic pump fake to get into the 2 that we see way too often. And tonight, it tends to be the three-pointers that are the biggest deal with it, that we see the catch and shoot threes when they're there, when they hit it. If he can just accept the role as a floor spacer, because it's so weird that we're asking him to fit, like, a different role, because we're asking him to play kind of like a Jay Crowder, a PJ Tucker, in a role that he really is more talented than, but that's the box that we need him to check and to fit in, is to just be the simple catch and shoot, space the floor, and he's capable. He's a good enough shooter that he should be able to let it rip, and it's so frustrating for a guy that is as good a shooter as he is to just beg for him to shoot more.
And to kind of follow up on that, when Tobias first was traded to the Sixers, when they had J.J. Redick, Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, he was a spacer with J.J. Redick. And I think that, and he was above 40% three-point shooter at the time. And you thought that, okay, that was enough. Like, we have 2 spacers, 2 shooters around Jimmy, Ben, and Joel to make that. So if he could kind of step back into that role a little bit more, I know he's used to being a second offensive option, but right now he's not it. And some nights he's going to be 3, some nights he's going to be 4, depending on, the matchups. But he has to make the adjustment if he wants to win. And I think that's the one thing about the Sixers squad right now is they made a big move. Now they have to all make adjustments to their game. They want to win. That includes James Harden. That includes Joel Embiid. That includes Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle. Everybody has to do something that they may not necessarily feel comfortable with in order for this team to win while the roster is constructed the way it's constructed right now.
And I just want to add to that just a little bit because you just said something where I wanted to go. And it goes back to James Harden. We all know he's a special talent and he can do some amazing things. But you just said this team is going to have to fit in spaces that they are not necessarily comfortable with. And the knock on Harden is right now, obviously, when he's not getting foul calls, where does he go? And we've seen a little bit of that tonight. I can be honest when I look at that tonight, where it's like he was a little
frustration.
Exactly, passing the ball a lot, not being as aggressive because he wasn't getting those fouls calls. And I've been set up while I was watching it. It's like, listen, you James Harden, dude, shoot. I don't care if you shoot 30 plus times, shoot the ball, James Harden. And I was a little disappointed. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed in that a little bit from him when it comes to this game tonight.
I think it was his overall approach that was just disappointing. You know, like you said, the way that he, I don't want to say gave up because he certainly didn't do that, but but he didn't capture the moment. You know, he didn't attack it. You know, he kind of went away from driving once he realized that he wasn't getting the calls that he's used to. Which you look at a lot of those plays, and you can make a clear argument that he should have gotten more calls than he did. I mean, a game where James Harden only attempts 2 free throws. Right. I mean, I don't know if that's happened since he was a rookie.
Yeah,
you know,
that's absurd.
I mean, it's insane. So, you know, while you do admittedly, you know, looking back at those plays, put some of that on the refs, you got to put some of that on Harden too, because again, it's about adjusting. Whistle's not falling in your favor tonight. Okay, you got to find other ways to actually, like when you're attacking the basket, the thing Harden does, most of the time when he attacks the basket, he's not looking to make the shot. He's looking to draw the contact. Yep. If the whistle's not falling in your favor, focus on actually making the shot. Focus on actually, you know, working the pick and roll, pick and pop game, dish the ball, shoot over the top. You know, you have to do more than just become a passive player at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And I think overall, I'm not trying to jump ahead, but I just want to say overall, I mean, disappointing performance overall.
Sure.
With so much hype in the game, you wish they would perform better. I mean, they got punched in the mouth. They didn't punch back. I'm just disappointed in everyone's play. Everyone seemed real jumpy in the beginning. You know, you guys, like, for example, you guys play with Steph Curry in the past. You know his tendencies. Why are you falling for the same tendencies that other teams that don't scout him do? You play with him every time. Like,
you going under on screens.
Yeah,
you know,
like
you're not closing out. You know,
I just don't get it. I don't think Doc deserves to take some credit in this because he wasn't as. It looks like they weren't prepared.
Yeah.
And you know, hopefully at the end of the day, they use this as a teaching tool as they go forward. Yeah. I do want to ask a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Are you worried?
I'm not worried. I don't know about you guys. I'm not worried.
Not worried because, like you just said it. It's a lot they can learn from this.
Yeah.
Now it's about if they learn and they actually go execute. So I'm gonna give them that time to sit there and learn from their mistakes. So I'm not worried because we know.
Yeah.
It's one thing that I did see tonight, even though he didn't have a dominating game. It's one thing that I did see tonight, and that is Joel Embiid still can't be stopped.
Yeah, no, you're
all
right
he
with that,
needed,
you know?
all he needed was just someone else to come along along and ride with them. They would have had a better chance than what they had tonight.
And now listen, he was 5 of 17 from the floor, sure, but he was 15 and 19 from the free throw line.
Exactly.
On top of that, a lot of those missed shots, when Embiid gets frustrated, and this wasn't frustration caused by Andre Drummond. This was frustration caused by his teammates. This was frustration caused by the lack of calls going Philadelphia's way. But when he gets frustrated, he takes some of the most insane, he takes insane shots when he's on anyway, and he makes them.
Yeah.
But he takes some really irresponsible shots. Like, love Embiid. He's the MVP of the NBA, MVP of the Sixers. But let's call it like it is. He does take some bad shots when he gets frustrated.
Yep.
And so my point with that is that's not always going to be the case. You know, there's going to be nights where Harden doesn't shoot 3 of 17. Maxey doesn't shoot 2 of 7, where the whistle actually does fall in favor of Sixers not named Joel Embiid. So in a game where he's not this frustrated, I do think that's going to change a lot. I do want to see him grow past that, though. It's kind of an old tendency of his to get frustrated, and I think it's time for him to outgrow that.
Yep.
I also saw very little of the two-man game between Embiid and Harden today. That has to be the Sixers' bread and butter if they want to be the team that they think they are. And that can't be something that they turn away from. And obviously both those guys have a little bit of a reputation as ISO players, but they have to turn into guys that rely on each other to score in the effectiveness that they want to see. So, I guess I didn't like that when they got punched in the face and when things turned south, that I saw a little bit more of the tendencies of all right, let me do this myself versus what we need is for them to grow together. And in the long run, I'm not worried, to answer your original question, Justin, because things have been so smooth sailing since James Harden's been here. the Sixers need a little bit of this. They need a little bit
to
wake up,
weird
to
way it could be
realize
good
where
for
we're at,
them.
that it will be good for them in the long run. And I mean, just looking at this game specifically, the Sixers shot 32.3% from the field. You simply can't win basketball games shooting that poorly, and that's not a number that's going to stick around. That's just not going to be the case on a nightly basis. We can wipe this one clean in that regard, scratch it. There's a lot to learn from this one, but, I mean, you move on, you get ready for the Magic, and prepare for the rest of the regular season. Playoffs is where things will get real.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's a lot, to want to forget about tonight's game, but a couple bright spots, just to talk about it for a minute. Deandre Jordan, for one, I thought had a very good game. I thought he looked great. He still did a lot of the Deandre Jordan foibles, but even still, he looked better than he's looked in a long time tonight. So he played fantastic, and obviously it's garbage time minutes. But Paul Reed looked pretty good too. Let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, Paul Reed has not gotten a chance from Doc Rivers, for the entire season, and it took a 30-point deficit for him to actually get a chance, but he looked pretty good, he hit a three, he was active, he looked like he's a real NBA player. So I guess, to pose a question to all of you guys, did you like what you saw out of Paul Reed, and do you think that this is the start of change, or does he have to wait yet another year?
Yeah, to jump in real quick, I mean, he played 8 minutes and got up 6 shots. So these were obviously not minutes that Paul Reed was taking lightly.
Yes.
So you can tell that he's ready.
This is what we wanted Isaiah Joe to do.
Yeah, exactly. And from Paul Reed's perspective, that's absolutely what he should be doing. I mean, these are opportunities that we've all kind of been pounding our fists why they haven't happened forever.
Yeah.
Ended with 7 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 2 fouls in 8 minutes of play. So a lot going on.
+6 in 8 minutes too. +6 is not bad. Like I'm not the biggest plus minus guy, but like and again, it's garbage time and everything like that. But we can compare how everybody played for the Sixers, bench included. Shake Milton was terrible, Korkmaz was bad. Joe was bad. Like, everybody, even on the bench, was bad.
Yeah.
But to still be a +6, I think that's a testament to how he played today.
Yeah, and that's always been my take on Paul Reed. It looks weird, it's a little off, but it makes things happen. And he's absolute madness out there, but it creates things. It's effective. It at least stirs the pot. It's at least something that the Sixers absolutely need to, worth developing, and in the long run, I think is worth it in a way that I don't know if they necessarily see the same way. And just looking at a playoff perspective, I mean, we're looking at the same limitations with Deandre Jordan and Paul Millsap as we saw last year with, Dwight Howard, and in the past with guys like Amir Johnson and everything like that. Paul Reed is a splash of just different in the aspect that he is more mobile, he's more switchable, he can do different things, and that's just an option that against certain teams the Sixers may need to use. So I would love for him to continue to see minutes, would love for him to continue to develop. With that being said, I'm not confident that will be the case.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's understandable. I mean, you wish you could say different, but that's Doc Rivers is going to be Doc Rivers.
And that's where it comes down to me when it comes to that. Will Doc Rivers just do it? He's in love with the veteran player.
Yeah.
That's just what his MO is. He's won with them. And that's just what he knows. But I do agree to an extent where it's like you said, what's the harm of just trotting him out there? Like I say, he's athletic.
Yeah.
He can move. Why not use that talent and actually grow it and then learn the system and able to be out? You think he can't be out there and defend better than Tobias Harris at times? Right. You know what I'm saying? Who was getting absolutely abused today by Kevin Durant. I mean, granted it's Kevin Durant, but he totally looked outmatched by Kevin Durant. Like, it literally, they didn't belong on the same floor together. And then just Korkmaz, like you said, even in garbage time, it's just like
he's done. He's
done. It's still there.
He's done.
Like,
He's mentally. You want to talk about Ben Simmons mentally not being there?
He's done for probably this season.
Yeah, Furkan's out of it, man.
So why not try someone else new? Because you
agree.
can't keep trotting the same people out there.
And that's why we spoke about Isaiah Joe has to really take advantage of this opportunity, because there may not be another chance for him to try to step into the rotation. Just period. Also, we missed, although he's not flashy or anything, we missed, I'll tell you this, we missed Danny Green's presence as a veteran on the court tonight.
Again? Remember in the Hawks series, that's why we lost. Danny Green.
That's why we lost? Danny Green's why we lost? Not that yellow bumblebee sitting on Brooklyn's bench? That's why we lost?
I mean, game
That's what
one
they
he gave
told
up
me.
50 points, but whatever. But I do think there's a calm.
Yeah.
The calm that, he's been in the league and he's won championships and he's been in that atmosphere.
Yeah.
He could kind of calm the guys down. It's different when you're on street clothes doing it than when you in the mix, in the battle with your soldiers.
Yeah.
So, I think Danny Green is missed. But, ultimately, the Sixers got their butts kicked tonight, and they needed it. And now they need to go forward and take care of business on Sunday with Orlando. And then they got another tough couple games coming up.
Yeah.
Denver,
Right.
it's just they got a couple games coming up, whereas
It's a rough March.
Denver, Phoenix, both LA teams.
Yeah.
Still got Milwaukee again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Still got the Heat again.
Yep.
They got to get it together.
The last 7 games look relatively easy, but it's the up until then. It's
Yeah.
not going to be. There's not an easy moment.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Orlando coming up next, but there's really not an easy moment other
And
than
a
that.
back-to-back with Denver the next
And a
day.
back-to-back with the
And
Nuggets.
Orlando has
Exactly.
led in every game that they played with the Sixers thus far this season.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a real case of playing down to your opponent.
Yeah.
That's Philadelphia's specialty, unfortunately. But
I do, during that stretch, I do want to see some type of progression with this team.
Yes.
Because like you said, towards the end of the season, a lot of the lesser teams that they play, so you really can't get a gauge with that. So I definitely, like I said, I'm not saying we're going to win every game, but definitely want to see some strides, like you said. When it's time to take over, James Harden take over. Tobias, can you keep this sort of thing going right now? Role players, can you keep going? Can Paul Reed crack the lineup and actually get some rotation? I want to see some type of change and some type of shift with the team, because that's one thing I do believe. We cannot continue going out there with the same rotation, same line shift, same players thinking we're going to play. And I do agree that Danny Green definitely plays a part. As much as he annoys me, definitely plays a part with this team for sure, though.
Yeah.
They're definitely a different team when he's out there.
So I don't necessarily want to bring this up with Paul Millsap being out for family reasons recently. So this is but the timing is what it is. The Sixers look very light at the guard position tonight. That was really clear. Obviously, there's not a lot of great free agents available at the moment, but with the play of Paul Reed, with the play of Deandre Jordan, is Paul Millsap expendable for potentially another player? Because remember, even though we've passed the deadline for a player to be cut and then playoff eligible, players who were not with the team before that deadline are still eligible to play in the playoffs. Okay, so thinking about two guys, Darren Collinson and Quinn Cook, as two potential solutions. Do you feel any better about having Collinson or Cook than you do having Paul Millsap on this roster?
Yeah, personally, I love Quinn Cook. I'm a huge Quinn Cook fan. And there would be something, too, adding that to the second unit. When you think about, Shake Milton's our guy off the bench as the backup guard, there's a whole different presence that Quinn Cook brings as far as running an offense, running a team. And he's a guy that, similar to how I feel about Harden in a way, he just has that calming influence, is that kind of veteran presence despite him still being a fairly young player.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely something I'd be able to.
I mean, he's a 40% shooter from 3 over his career. And if you look even in recent history, with the Cavs, it was only 7 games, but 46.2. With the Lakers, this is also 20 to 21, 38.5%. And I mean, 36.5, 40.5, 44.2. He's just a damn good 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
And we could absolutely, I think he might be the best one still in the market. And we
Crazy
could
he's not on a
definitely
team.
use more shooting. It is. You're playing for the Stockton Kings. Not even the Sacramento Kings, but the Stockton Kings. I'm not saying that Quinn Cook, is Steph Curry or anything like that. He can be on a team. I get it. He's small. He's slow.
If Nick Stauskas is on the team.
If Nick Stauskas is on a team.
Sauce Castillo.
I get it. 100 points between 2 games, but whatever. If Sauce Castillo's on a team, I think that there's room for Quinn Cook, especially considering the difference in position there. Where Stauskas is a huge liability at that wing position, whereas Quinn Cook as a guard, you can kind of get away with it a little bit.
And my thoughts, I would be cool with the guard, but in my thoughts, if we would cut Millsap, I think we need a wing, play defense, hit threes, kind of because we have issues. You see, we have issues. We don't have a matchup for KD or anything like that. I would like James Ennis.
Yeah.
You know, James Ennis, good corner 3 shooter, plays defense. Somebody has a knack for getting offensive rebounds. So it's like somebody that I would be interested in would be James Ennis, but you know, I don't mind Quinn Cook either. But we all know that that's not going to happen because Doc likes people who are 35 and older.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's still a fun exercise, you know. I agree with you about a wing though. Like obviously a wing's a huge need, and I think that's going to be a huge focal point in free agency.
Yes.
Getting a body, someone who can defend people like Kevin Durant, because you know Matisse Thybulle's obviously one of the best defenders in the NBA. Typically better frustrating a guard than he is guarding the 7-foot best player in the NBA.
Correct.
Not this season. Joel Embiid's the best player this season. Kevin Durant's still the best player in basketball as a whole. Okay, so definitely want a bigger body for that come the offseason. James Ennis, this is like super, super recent. James Ennis just signed in Israel. So unfortunately, he's off the list. But I'll give you a similar guy. What do you think about Justin Anderson? What are your feelings about Justin Anderson?
I think he would bring some toughness, and that's Joel's like close friend or something like that.
Yeah.
So Joel would probably love that.
Oh yeah.
But I do think that he like my Justin Anderson memories are the Miami Heat series and him beefing with Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't play like T.J. McConnell and Markelle Fultz.
Yeah.
So they played Justin Anderson, but he could be somebody. But it's too late in the season at this point. There's hopes of anything, but like you said, I think, and I mentioned this to you before, I'm not looking past this season at all. I really think there's a real chance to win the championship. I'm not saying that because we're on PSN and we like the Sixers. There's a legit wide open chance for any team in the top 6 or top 8 really in the East.
Minus Chicago.
Minus Chicago or Toronto. And then there's at least, honestly, 4 teams in the West that can go to the finals. Like, it's really wide open. But I think seeing how the roster is constructed next year and during, like, the summer, I think it'll be tailored more towards the game of the 2 stars and how they want to play, not reluctant shooters, guys who really space the floor, guys who make quick decisions. You know, I would love somehow if PJ Tucker opted out and came to Philly.
Ooh,
as old as he is, I still would take a chance.
Oh, in a heartbeat.
You know he's going to shoot the corner threes.
Never seen him
you know
miss
he's going to hustle.
You know, we need to find a way to get our own PJ Tucker, Marcus Morris, you know, whomever that may be. It may be Torrey Craig to a degree.
Yeah. Totally fine.
But whomever that is, you know, Philadelphia definitely needs to find their version of that. But going forward, AB, what's your level of confidence in this Sixers team? You know, we heard Justin, and anyone's league, you know, anyone's season this year in the East. But are you of that same mindset?
I mean, overall, yeah. Again, tonight, I feel like was just an anomaly in a sense. We got a team in the Sixers still growing who play outside of themselves. And then you had a team in the Nets where you could tell this date was targeted. They were more up coming into this game than the Sixers were, essentially like that. So I don't look at this game and think it's just over. And just to hit on the points as far as guys to pick up, I mean, I know we're speaking about a lot of these players, but, you know, at this moment, it's like you're scraping at the bottom right now, essentially like that. So it's like whenever anyone you get that you're able to get anything out of them, squeeze anything out of them, it's a plus. I mean, this is the team, essentially like that. And if we're going to win a championship this year, the stars are going to have to be the stars, essentially like that. At the end of the day, we need some.
We can't have 3 for 17 and 5 for 17.
That's what I'm saying. You know, so if that was even similarly better than what it was, it would have been a better chance of winning this game than what it was. So at the end of the day, our guys have to go out there and be their guys. And even though Joel Embiid statistically had a good night,
good numbers,
right? But he didn't really stamp and really put his imprint on his game. Where it's like you know when Embiid is going like the night before when he went for 40 something, he really took over that game. No one else really shot the ball against the Chicago Bulls, and he really took it over. So I was a little disappointed not seeing that as well when it comes to that. And I always said it, if the Sixers win a championship, it's going to be on the shoulders of the big guy, regardless.
Yeah. But with that being said, we need more out of Tyrese Maxey also.
Yes.
Not only was it a poor shooting night. Let's remember, I know he's a young kid, but he's established himself as the third star.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's not get it twisted, okay? But, it's on two fronts. Only making 2 shots, I should say, that's certainly not enough. Only taking 7, that's another issue in and of itself. So we need more volume, and we need you to compete at a higher percentage.
Specifically, when a good majority of the night, he was being guarded by Seth.
Exactly.
But was that more so him, or was the guys just not giving him the ball? Because
I think it's a little column A, a little column B.
Yeah, because at times, and Sean even mentioned it, there was a lot of ISO ball, let me go do it myself, whereas at times, let the young man get the ball, let him run
let him run a little ISO, stagger him a little bit with some bench guys,
Especially the minutes when Embiid is off the floor and he's on the floor for that moment, so
Yeah, well, it's definitely a disappointing game. Not really anything you can say about that, but again, we look to the future. We look for anything brighter that we can look for in the future. I think that the Orlando Magic game, thinking of that in particular, should. Well, I guess my one question with it is, what do they do about rest? Because again, it's the first of a back-to-back. Do you rest one of Embiid or Harden? Do you rest both of them? Do you rest nobody? Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, this is something we talked about on Pick Swap too, and the Magic game specifically was one I had circled for a rest game for Joel. I'm not really sure how I feel. If Harden's hamstring and he can only play one of the two, you kind of have to give him off the Magic game.
Yeah.
That Nuggets game is one that I would like for them to show up to a Sixers kind of statement game, especially after this game. So I guess the first check-in is on the management of Harden's hamstring. I would really like for Embiid to get a couple games off down the stretch before playoffs to get some fresh legs. You have to look ahead and plan for that. You can tell he's a little more – he looks like a guy who's backpacked the team into the third place in the East for half a season. He looks like a guy who's worn the whole wear on the offensive and defensive end for a year. Now that Harden is here, that is a luxury that we have to take more advantage of, that we have a guy that can run a team as a whole. So I'm absolutely on board with looking for some time, looking for some games for Embiid to get some rest, and I don't know, the Magic might just have to be one of them.
Yeah, and like you said, looking to set them, have them sit against the Magic as opposed to the Nuggets. I think that's a really good idea, mostly because, listen, what's the thing that, you always heard, growing up, and there's a lot of truth to it. You get better by playing better competition, right? Yeah. And so what good is it necessarily doing if you're having Embiid and Harden build that chemistry against bottom-of-the-barrel teams like the Orlando Magic? You want them to build that chemistry against the best of the best. And, obviously the Nuggets are a little short-handed. They're missing Jamal Murray. They're missing Michael Porter Jr. But at this moment, they're up on the Warriors as we're recording this podcast. Obviously they are still one of the fiercest competition in the entire Western Conference. So ideally, I want to see both James Harden and Joel Embiid in that game, because I want more nights against that tough competition.
Yeah, especially with them together.
Take the easy nights off. Yeah, exactly like you said, together. Take the easy nights off, build that chemistry against the tough teams. But what about you, AB? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I said, if I had to choose between the two, because I'm right along with Sean, especially just giving Joel Embiid that time off. Because he even before James Harden got here, we forget Joel Embiid was carrying a load essentially for the great portion of the first part of the season. So definitely want to get some time for him to be as healthy as possible going into the playoffs. And again, we just spoke about it earlier in the segment, where it's like these stretch of games where we got these better competitions. That's the only way these two guys are going to get better. We already know they're better than. They can beat them by themselves, essentially, like that. The Orlando Magic, the Cavaliers, and people like the teams like that. So these better teams against a Jokic who's right along with you in this MVP race, you need to go out there and you need to produce. And the more time you have together, the better it will be going into the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, so that about does it, I think, for the post-game recap. One thing I did want to bring up, and I hate to do it because I think it's a stupid topic, but we have to talk about it because it's in the news. Ben Simmons, obviously, Clutch Sports seem to be looking to build their case for the future arbitration case against the Philadelphia 76ers. Most likely the reason why Ben Simmons was on the side of the court tonight. Does anyone here think that their case was strengthened by this game tonight?
No.
I would say weakened even.
Yeah.
The Sixers were booed more than Ben Simmons
Yes.
tonight.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to point out how crazy it is. On the Nets road trip, Ben Simmons was not at the Celtics game.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons was not at the Hornets game. He
Just
specifically
came
to Philadelphia to sit on the bench with the intention of being abused and strengthening his case. So I think if you can't skim through and see the intentions there and see the plan behind it, like, you should be able to tell what's going on.
Yeah. And we know that one fan was kicked out for. I mean, I'm just assuming profanities he was shouting at Simmons relentlessly.
Probably.
I didn't see the video. I don't know if anything was thrown or anything like that. I hope not, of course. But you hate to be this kind of person about it, but you have to wonder, like, is that a Sixers fan? Is that a plant? Just because this whole thing seems so staged by Clutch Sports.
Definitely seems staged, but I think.
And it sounds insane to suggest that might be a plan.
Right.
But it's like, this is Rich Paul. This is the dude who pulled Tyrese Maxey's public appearances because of Ben Simmons.
Yep.
This man has no idea what he's doing.
It's not insane at all. Like you said, you got Rich Paul and you have Ben Simmons working together. Two people that are very maniacal and just Ben, like you said, we know the history of Ben Simmons here with the 76ers and what he's done and how he had his imprint on this team essentially going in. But I mean, so it doesn't shock me whatsoever that the simple fact during the offseason that Ben Simmons came to Philadelphia without even telling Rich Paul that he was coming and let you know, like, the type of person that each person is essentially like that. Like, so this doesn't shock me at all that this is even something, an idea essentially.
Yeah, I'm just glad this is over.
Yeah. I think
Got
that's
this
a
out
big
the way.
takeaway, right?
I'm glad it's over.
Yeah.
Win or lose, clearly it's a loss, but win or lose, I'm just glad it's over. Stop talking about it.
Yeah.
If they run into each other in the playoffs, it'll be different, but it's over now. The case is over.
Well,
As a
that
Sixers
spacing is
fan,
going to be a lot different for Brooklyn in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that Sixers fans can now stop talking about Ben Simmons, and Ben Simmons and Nets fans can stop talking about James Harden and the Sixers. Like, just everybody move on.
This point, it is what it is.
Yep.
There's a whole lot to do about a guy who came here and sat on the bench for all 48 minutes tonight. So, and I will say, as much as and I fully expect Ben Simmons to be ramping up his return to play immediately after this game and be returning very soon. But the Nets are not putting themselves in a great position by putting this small amount of games to learn how to play together. Like, it takes time for every team to learn how to play, and we're seeing it with Harden and Embiid. We're seeing it with the Sixers. Simmons is going to change the entire way the Nets play basketball.
The whole thing.
With like 15 games to play, that's not a lot of time to learn how to click.
Yep.
Yeah, not at all.
And I don't think people realize what goes into that. I know people think, yes, good players get together, you're going to be good, but to win a championship, like you said, things have to gel, things do have to come together. And for a player of Ben Simmons' ilk, where we know he's the most effective with the ball in his hand, literally changes the whole dynamic of this offense. What you've seen tonight is not what the Nets are going to be when it comes to when Ben Simmons is inserted, because there was a lot of free flowing, there was a lot of taking turns, there was a lot of off ball screens and things of that nature like that. When Ben Simmons is there now, it was back to the packing in the paint, play off.
Well, can you imagine Ben Simmons and Andre Drummond playing at the same time?
Right.
I mean, are they in a playoff setting?
We talking about Embiid.
Is Brooklyn going to be able to do that? I mean, like, listen, like you hack a Ben, hack a Andre. Like, there's.
I also would like to point out the Nets shot a higher percentage from the field than they did the free throw line tonight, which is absurd.
They were shooting absolutely absurdly tonight. I agree.
They were absurd in a good way from the field and absurdly bad from the free throw line. 52.9%. I mean, just
that let you know how on they were from the field. Though.
No, you're
KD
right.
and Kyrie, You got to give them. They came in
and Seth Curry. You know, revenge game against Stock Rivers. You know, he had to.
They came
he put his best foot forward, and really impressive. 24 points, second of the team in scoring. Seth Curry tonight. So, just again, it's an unfortunate ending, but it is what it is. We look forward to the future. And James Harden is. I don't think he's going to have another game like this anytime soon. So,
yeah, hope not.
Hope not. Exactly.
That's a whole nother conversation that I don't want to. I don't want to have.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for watching and for listening. Thank you to Franklin's Pub for having us here, and for the pregame, for the midgame, and we had a great time. Thanks for everyone for coming out to Franklin's. We hope to do a lot more of this stuff in the future, but for now, Zach Chavalella, Z Chavo NBA on Twitter. Be sure to be followed there. AB underscore.
Only one. __AB.
That's it. So
on
2
Twitter.
underscores.
Don't forget the 2.
We got at Will Work for Sneaks.
Yep.
Justin Crosby. I'll never forget that one. That's a great handle right there. And we got at Sean _Bernard 1. Follow all our work on Philly Sports Network. Check out the Open Gym Podcast. Check out the Pick Swap Podcast. AB is the host of Open Gym. Sean's the host of Pick Swap. And of course, Baseline Scoop. Myself, Justin, we're the hosts of that. So be sure to check out all that work as well. And keep following along. We're looking at only brighter days in Philly. So be patient.
Yep.
Okay? Yeah. Brighter times ahead.
Don't overreact, Philadelphia. Don't overreact.
Exactly. In Embiid we trust.